Today we'll implement some fun traffic fixes to a busy inner city corridor before developing a big office and commercial district. So if you're excited about this, I hope you'll consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Let's dive in. I'm gonna start by making a few changes to this intersection madness connecting the Armory to Concordia, and this intersection madness connecting Alexandria to Concordia. These two intersections caused quite the debate in the comment section of the previous episode, and for good reason. Now I feel like I had a pretty good respectful chat with a few of you, and it ultimately boiled down to the amount of bridges utilized to build all this. So it wasn't so much the complexity or the car-centric nature of it, because you can find plenty of examples of absolutely insane car-centric infrastructure in high-density inner city areas of major European cities. No, it was more so the bridges, and I think I acknowledged this even when I built it, but let's just do the count. So you've got one bridge here, and technically two with this segment. Make that 3 with this segment. There's a 4th one here, but we're not gonna count that because I'm just gonna look even worse. Let's make this the 4th one. Let's make this ramp the 5th one. We've got the 6th one here, the 7th, and then technically this is elevated as well with maybe a pillar underneath somewhere here, so 8 bridges in total, it seems. And while these two monstrosities of the 70s actually did help alleviate traffic quite a bit, the feasibility of 8 bridges, yeah, it's probably not all that realistic. Now, an easy way to start reducing the amount of bridges and just making this feel a little more believable is to simply just put some firm soil underneath them instead. Because the entire canal system here is just a little wonky, and it's also having the unfortunate effect of reducing the density of this inner city area by just limiting the amount of space we have to build, and thus connect the old town with some of the other dense environments in Concordia and Neuville. So I think a simple approach here is to basically just convert some of this stuff into actual buildable land, which is always fun because it's going to give us more opportunities for interesting developments. And I think we could do the same thing here, like it's just a little messy. Now that's not to say that's the only change we're gonna make, because I've got some other ideas for how we can just kind of clean up this or these two intersections and just reduce the amount of connections, but hopefully still have the same traffic throughput. Because this place gets busy. We're not even in rush hour and there's a ton of cars here already. So we need to kind of maintain the same overall functionality, which is being able to feed a ton of traffic from this overpass onto some of the job clusters that you can kind of visually see in the distance. The high-rise cluster by the station, as well as out by Livonia. So while I think the entire idea of trying to funnel traffic alongside this expressway is sound and currently works, we can probably reduce the complexity just a little bit. A suggestion that popped up quite a few times was to utilize one-directional streets, because currently we allow bi-directional transit on either side of the canal, which might not be necessary and might even hinder the current capacity. So the idea here would be to convert Washington Street to a one-directional segment, and then do the very same for Birch Street, just in the opposite direction. Now, one issue with converting the entire segment on either side is that we've currently set up some bus routes in the previous episodes, and they are very dependent on being able to go in this direction alongside Birch Street to actually get to the stop here, but also to go underneath this bridge and continue into Neuville. So we'll have to kind of do a half and half. Washington Street is going to be fully one-directional, including the ramp coming from the roundabout, while Birch Street is going to be a bit of a hybrid. Now, the hybrid situation here in Birch Street is basically just going to be a one-directional conversion of this middle stretch here, so that we still enable buses to utilize this road as well as this road. So as we're still going to have bi-directional traffic until at least this crossing here, we can get rid of this overpass entirely. My logic here being that instead of complicating this intersection, we could do it just a regular four-way, and then just allow these cars to make a direct left turn. And then as they get down here, obviously they're going to reach a one directional segment of Birch Street facing in the opposite direction. So we'll need another crossing. Yeah, that's a new bridge, but hopefully this one's gonna look a little cooler. Now obviously that is gonna require quite a few additional lanes here, so we're gonna utilize the space that we fortunately do have and just go for this 2+3 configuration, so that we can mark the innermost lane here for the buses needing to do this left turn, and the rest of the lanes are probably going to be mostly utilized by the commuter traffic wanting to cross over to Washington Street. This is also where Road Builder is gonna come in clutch, because if we just utilize the vanilla 2-lane highway to get the new overpass in place, it's just a little too chunky, and yeah, people are gonna walk here, and I really don't want that. In fact, I don't really want people walking alongside these roads at all. I would much rather they use the dedicated segment we're gonna build for them eventually. For now though, we are going to need some road builder configurations of these roads that are just a little more slim, a little more narrow, no sidewalks and no empty space. I do want to use a configuration though where I kind of have at least a part of the vanilla road in place, the vanilla 2-lane highway, because I think that transition is going to look a little better when we start moving in and we really get rid of all the empty space that we don't need. It's going to make sense in just a second. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to reduce the shoulder width to 1 meter on either side, and then I'm going to reduce the car lanes to just 3 meters. Now that is a nice narrow 2-lane highway. It shouldn't be with 120 km/h for speed limit though. We're gonna go to like 60, I think. Maybe 65, but it is meant like an inner city expressway of sorts, so I think that'll do. And then I'll get rid of this segment here. Unfortunately, that kind of just upgraded the entire segment. I was hoping I could keep a single node here of the vanilla one, but the transition from sidewalk to no sidewalk isn't actually all that ugly, so maybe we don't need it. Now I'm going to give the 3-lane segment of Ashford Street the very same treatment as this segment. Of course, since this is based on a regular road, I'll have to up the speed limit instead of reducing it. But on the flip side, all the lanes are already only 3 meters wide, so I just need to get rid of all the sidewalks and just add a tiny bit of a shoulder on either side. We'll replace the sections leading up to this junction with the 3-lane configuration, and we'll utilize the 2-lane configuration for everything preceding that, so that we adhere to like just a bit of lane math, just a little bit. I'm also just gonna bring the road as close to the current post office as possible, because if I can just get a bit more space on this side of the canal bank or river bank, it is going to make it a little easier to squeeze in the combined pedestrian bicycle dedicated lane as well. I am just gonna check if I can do the node trick here that I attempted to do at first, just to see if I can squeeze in a vanilla segment, because I just kind of feel that's gonna look a little better. So adding an additional node and then just trying to upgrade this segment, getting rid of the node. That does look a little better with the markings here. Just need to use manipulation mode now to just kind of drag this out a little bit. Yeah, something like that. With a bit of an additional cleanup of this area, such as moving this water tower to maybe this lot right here and getting rid of some of the now completely unnecessary extra pathways. We've kind of made ourselves a space here for new development or a prominent building of sorts. We've got even more cleanup as this additional lane, while fun, is seeing very little use. I had expected much more traffic pressure coming from the university and the Zeeburg area, but it's just not seeing all that much use, so I think it can go. Then we can just continue the 2+1 configuration up to the interchange here, or intersection, sorry, so that there's like at least 2 lanes moving into it. So I think with the demolition of these two slightly useless bridges, we're just about ready to map out the combined pedestrian bike segment here alongside the canal. So we'll just be starting with a tiny bit of terraforming. We're going to correct this later on. It's just to make sure that I've got a bit of space to work with when we're laying down this new piece of infrastructure. Otherwise the game is gonna act a little funky. So I'm finally going to use the divided wide pedestrian bicycle path. My approach here is going to have no snapping on, fix it to ground level and just use the continuous tool. And I don't want to make a direct connection to any of the intersections because that can kind of tie it into this node and make any changes a little finicky. So if possible, I'm actually going to just kind of map it out without connecting it to anything. And then I'm just going to drag the end node basically into an intersection when we need the connection. It's gonna be a little easier to actually showcase than explain. For now, we're just making sure we get this dragged out. Now, I think my idea is going to be to actually move underneath a segment here as well. So making a turn right here and then popping up on this side. Because I think the connection to this this busy roundabout is going to be a little easier on this side than trying to kind of move alongside the shoreline here. And I can kind of showcase the issue I was trying to explain before. So this kind of auto-connected, and you can see it's going to mess up this node due to this connection, which is kind of unfortunate. So before we do any configuration of this, we're actually just gonna get rid of this bit because I don't want these auto connections. Because the game is really great at just establishing a natural pathfinding. So if I just move it in here, it's actually going to work. Then we're just going to turn these two into elevated segments and probably add retaining walls, no, sorry, key segments alongside this stretch here. At least until we reach like the final segment, where I think I might just be upgrading or downgrading, depending on how you look at it. This custom road builder segment to the regular 3-lane road segment, because I think this segment here is just going to interact a little better or a little more natural if we've got just a tiny bit of sidewalk. So disabling all snapping, I'm just going to see where I can kind of squeeze in a small additional node and then just upgrade this segment here with some snapping on. Yoink. And then obviously getting rid of the dedicated bike paths, because that's no longer a requirement. Before I make any connections between the dedicated paths and the existing road layout, I want to make sure that this particular node here, which is now even more important without all the extra lanes, is situated exactly where I want it, which is going to be a little more centrally under the other bridge, just to make sure that there aren't, turns that are like too sharp or weird looking. So I'm just going to try to kind of see if I can do this. I can, but not without manipulation mode, because some of the sub nodes here certainly look a little funky. And then importantly, since we've lost an additional lane here, I am just going to upgrade this to a 4-lane segment, which might also enable me to do sort of a custom bridge build here, which would be fun because I grabbed something a little interesting off of PDX mods, which might be useful. Now it's good to use manipulation mode here because some of these nodes are stretched out super weirdly, which is just going to make this intersection really tricky to navigate for most cars. But yeah, with move it, pretty much anything can be fixed. I want to see if I can make the combined walk and bike path run almost completely parallel to this expressway here. Might require a bit of tweaking, so we'll see. I think I might use some more elevated segments, because one issue with having this being a key segment is that you kind of have this protruding pillar underneath. But if you upgrade to an elevated segment on either side, I can get rid of that and I'll just get a pillar which is easy to hide instead. So this should allow me to actually get real snug underneath this segment, which is kinda what I want. And then we have the connection over here to get sorted. So I've got two options, I feel. I could move underneath this road segment, or I could try to connect directly to the intersection. And I think I'm going to attempt the latter option there. And yeah, we'll see if it actually pans out. So I'm just going to give myself an extra node, and then I'm pretty much just going to see if I can branch that in with a nice curvy bit. Okay, so it connected to the bridge. So yeah, there are I guess there are caveats to just how well the system usually works. I guess there's no other way than to actually connect directly to the node here. I mean, I guess that would maybe happen eventually because it really wants to connect to the bridge up top. And don't get me wrong, that would be fun as well, but I don't know how I would really get that configured. So yeah, I guess this will do. And we'll just add this as a keyed segment and get rid of some of the keyed stuff on the inside here. Maybe just add that to the outside. And the thing we did right here, I'm going to do the same for the roundabout connection, just to make sure we've got some proper sidewalks lined up. Otherwise the transitions just look a little odd. I mean, the transition here isn't perfect, but I guess this is pretty much how most cities would actually just do it. Obviously, I don't want the double bicycle lane. I want to utilize this segment for a direct connection. Oh yeah, it's actually seeing a bit of use, which is nice, People can't actually walk on these segments because I replaced the shoulder with empty lanes, which completely just disallows people to walk there. So that's just a quick note if you want to utilize some of the same road builder roads. And I do have a fun idea of having a dedicated pedestrian path over here, and then maybe kind of creating a custom bridge of this where the pedestrian path kind of runs alongside it, and then utilizing some sort of a pillar prop to make it look like a single bridge. Once again, just a tiny bit of terraforming to hopefully make mapping out the pedestrian path a little easier. So I've just mapped out a quick pavement segment underneath the bridge here, and then done a bit of terraforming, because sometimes it's just a little easier to work with the pavement path if I'm just making it as a flat segment on a piece of terrain at ground level instead of trying to do an elevated bit. I don't know, it just seems like it generates too many small nodes when I attempt to do it elevated, which is fairly annoying. So with the continuous tool and no snapping, I'm just gonna attempt to kind of get the swoopy design of the bridge mapped out as well as I can, sort of like that. And then I just kind of want to align at least these segments and these nodes to the exact height of this one, because that's just going to make the entire design a little easier to work with, I think. So something like this. It's creating too many nodes already, but oh well. Then we're just gonna move in and make this an elevated segment and redo the terraforming. There's a couple of interesting pillar options, but ultimately I need something that's fairly simple. So we're gonna try this Piro 2 pillar, 01, I guess it's technically called. This is from the Bridges and Ports DLC, I think. So maybe 4 right here, connecting both of the bridges, and we'll get a couple on this side of the highway as well. Now these are technically buildings and not props, so they will actually sink into the ground and cause terraforming when I do so. So it's going to be interesting to see if this will, I mean, if this is even going to work, because it might just not. I'm going to align them all to the same heights, and we'll drop them down to about here. How does that look? I think it looks really nice. So I think the big question is how the game is going to look when I adjust parts of the canal to the height of this. Yeah, I mean, it gets kind of dark, but we might be able to manage, because I think some of this is going to be keyed off anyways, and then we can just do like a heavy cover of trees and bushes just to make the shoreline here look all right. Alright, so quite a few changes, a few new developments, and a bit of detailing later, and I think we're just about ready to move on to other exciting things. A quick tour, I couldn't help myself but to reintroduce the slightly underutilized dedicated right turn here. Yeah, it's a bit of a legacy from the previous mess we had, but hey, look at all the usage. Also just had to get rid of this roundabout. It worked nicely until it just didn't, and I think it was due to the amount of pedestrians passing through this area. They just kind of clog up the otherwise nice flow of a roundabout, so yeah, we're just utilizing a regular four-way intersection by now. And as for the new developments, these are the old factory condos. I think they fit fairly well given that they sit just on the border of the armory, and if you recall, this is a redeveloped former industrial lot which also used to house an actual armory. So I think that the fit is alright. It's expensive condos for hipsters now. And at the other major intersection, which has also been streamlined quite a bit, we now have this modern development, which is a combination of a really nice looking vanilla assets and then just two prop versions of the same asset in hopes of just creating like a more unique design that is very much tailored to this awkward lot, and it kind of looks just a little more organic, I guess. Also, by utilizing these high-density residential blocks, I was able to bump up the head count, I want to say, the household count, quite a bit. And then there were quite a few calls for me to reduce the amount of dedicated bike paths throughout the city, especially this part. So I've done that to kind of simplify this crossing as well, so that we don't have an actual traffic signal here. You still have to yield for pedestrians, but otherwise the flow is a lot better. And I agree with the reduction in bike paths. This is not supposed to be a bike heaven. It's just supposed to be a city that is trying to take it more serious. And I've even been telling myself not to plaster every street with dedicated bike paths because it's just, I don't know, it feels a little unrealistic if you're not building an actual Dutch city. So I've just kind of reduced that a little bit, and I think it works out a little better now. For the next major project, I'm gonna attempt to correct what I think is just a big mistake on my behalf, and that is this otherwise really fun to build sunken highway. I absolutely love the super messy infrastructure here, but there's just one major issue. It's not the complexity of it, once again referring to some of the wacky stuff you can find throughout Europe. It's the location. It is just too close to the train station, and ultimately it just restricts the scope of Neuville and the really built environment of the city by creating this big blank space, which I think realistically you could only add commercial stuff, maybe public housing too. So yeah, I don't see any other solution but to pause the game and just get rid of this thing entirely. On the flip side, it is going to allow us to conduct a pretty sizable expansion of Neuville, which I think is going to add so much extra to just the sense of scale here in the city. So I'm gonna get rid of all of these extra lanes and all that good stuff, and we'll do something else entirely. Because I'm also gonna get rid of this overpass here. Instead, I'm gonna grab the custom 32-meter 4-lane tram road we've created with Road Builder, and I'm just gonna continue that in a straight line down to this segment. Then we're going to upgrade this just like this, so that we can eventually kind of connect the tram line out here, I think. This is gonna create a lot of additional developable space for us, which I think is gonna be really nice. We're gonna make sure we can work with this segment as well. And then something I think is going to look just a little more organic, I guess is like the best word for it, is to continue still having an overpass, but just kind of moving straight across the highway here. I still think the plan is to eventually bring the tram network out here when we start developing this area beyond the sunken highway. But for now, we just kind of need this connectivity in place because I've got an additional idea. I kind of want to connect this road cutting through this soon to be hopefully developed area underneath the train tracks for a connection here, I guess, just to kind of increase the connectivity throughout the city. Currently, the district of Zugwald is very isolated with just this overpass as the only entry and exit point. I think I am going to grab this 2-lane, two-way express. It's kind of like a weird mix between a regular street and a highway, but it might just work out for this particular project. We'll say continues, no snapping, and then I think we'll need to go -7.5 for a good, for a good move underneath the train tracks here. And I can kind of make out where the nodes of these train tracks are. So this should be just about the right location for the underpass. Well, I guess it's gonna be an overpass, and this is just gonna be a sunken segment. But I think you get what I mean. Clicking once more, and connecting this up. I don't want to redo a ton of landscaping here in Zugwald, so for now we're just gonna kind of key this off, make it a bit of a feature, and make sure to upgrade to the 2 elevated segments. Yeah, words are hard currently, so I apologize if I'm struggling a bit to make coherent sentences. Sometimes it just be like that. Anyways, we need to get this connection in place, and I think for that I'm just going to utilize the continuous tool, which should give me a good bendy segment. Yoink. So we're gonna need a bit of move it love, of course, to really look the part, but otherwise I think we might have nailed this on the first go. Oh yeah, lots of new prime real estate just ready to be developed. I also think I'll be relocating the recycling center, spawning all the garbage trucks. So that would be this piece of infrastructure here, because I think lining up some modern high-rises or some like office structures might be a bit of fit for this location right next to the modern expressway here. So I'm just gonna grab this, and let's see, we'll snap 2 roads and just bring it all the way out here. And I have seen a few garbage pickup notifications, so let's just go with the waste collection truck depot, which is gonna add 4 additional trucks. And it is looking a little funky here, so I think a key would be in place. I think I'd feel just a little sad if I didn't get to repurpose just some of this fun highway infrastructure. So I'm gonna see if I can do something with the weird setup we currently have, because I mean, we need some form of connectivity to this overpass now anyways. So let's just try a few things out. We could go with a 7% increase or incline, and then we'll try to connect up to this segment right here, where we also need to branch out a connection to this part, I think. Yes. This one should be fairly simple and smooth. Don't need that to be an elevated segment. Yoink. And then I think we're gonna do something a little more fun right here. So if we could move the lane map just down the road a bit like this, then we could have 2 ramps connecting to this. We could have one which just branches off from this segment right here. So I mean, I think the... oh wait, we actually need even better lane map. We need a 4-piece right here, I think. Yeah, like this. And then we can have the fun ramp branching off from this segment to the outermost of the 4 lanes. So thereabouts. And then we'll need something from up here, I think. Just because. And this one should be elevated. And then just a bit of move it magic. We should be able to disallow this right turn, get rid of a few crossings, as well as the traffic signaling. Because you can make a right here. The next off ramp is about as simple as they get. I think we already had this pretty much configured, so I just need to bring that up to this crossing. But then I think for this segment, yeah, more move it magic to get this to work. It's not quite as messy as before, but it's still got a few quirks and a bit of charm, so I'm still proud, I think. Getting into the expansion of Neuville, we're going to start by removing much of the existing park. I think I'm gonna keep the hospital, or the Eastern European themed medical clinic, because I like the location, and it's gonna kind of make sure that not all the blocks look samey. But otherwise, we'll need to establish a few new roads as well. So I think this is a pretty interesting road layout, just to start out with at least. Some of it seems a little random and pretty organic, while other segments, like this stuff over here, seems like it was kind of developed with a master plan in mind. So I think for something like this, I tried to maintain 6x6 zoning tiles within each of these 3 blocks. Then we'll have some sort of a park of some sort here in the center. And I think for this area to really make sense, I'm probably just going to utilize the same 3x3 corner throughout the entire development. I might as well just go ahead and do that, just kind of see how that actually looks. Might even give the French themed asset pack a go here. I don't really utilize these throughout Zeeburg because they feel pretty distinct, but that's probably a mistake. There are so many wonderful assets in here, and seeing as I haven't locked the city to a specific country, then why not? We could start out soft with this version here with a red tiled roof that might just kind of blend a little better in. This one has the added benefit of actually being an office building. So it's going to be interesting to see just how many workplaces this is going to spawn. But I do actually appreciate that fact because I have terrible unemployment. It's like 20% or something. Yeah, it's really bad. Oh, kind of messed up that placement, but they slot into place fairly well. So let's just get all these placed. I don't really have any office demand, but when a company does move in, it seems to provide around 35 to 37 jobs, which isn't too bad for a building of this size. Having a look at the actual visual, I think it looks pretty nice. It blends in fairly well with the rest of this area, but you can kind of see that it's all built as like a master plan. So I think the explanation is that something used to be here before, some industry, whatever it might be. Then it all got kind of swooped up by a single developer who built his or her master plan here, buildings and everything. We could technically turn it into a mixed-use development by adding the medium-density residential blocks. I think I'm just gonna try adding a few of these and see how that all pans out. They generally work all right, but I encounter a few pathing issues at times in terms of like service coverage. I'm gonna showcase you guys what I mean in just a sec. But for now, I'm just gonna spam a few of these just to kind of get it all a little more mixed and bump the population as well. So what I mean is that I'm having a bit of trouble reaching these high density residential blocks, as you can probably tell with the service vehicles. Yeah, it's likely me having done a mistake somehow, but just something to note. I mean, I have added the pedestrian gate for all of these, so maybe it's lack of parking spot. I don't really know what's up here. Oh well. Many of the remaining blocks here in Neuville, or what I guess you could call Outer Neuville, will follow the same principles as this development. So it's a pretty simple approach because I'll just need to kind of locate the one building I'd like to use for each of the blocks. So in this case, we're gonna grab the corner buildings first, probably level 3, so that they're not too dense, and then from the German-themed region pack. The cool thing is that most, if not all, of the corner buildings within this region pack will have non-corner versions, so wall-to-wall versions that follow the exact design or almost the exact design anyways. So if we just move in and we make sure to add some of these corner lots, and I think I'm just gonna cut this one in short so that we can have a more special development here at the end of this block. Then basically you can just kind of fill this in, and it's gonna take a very little time, I guess I'm trying to say here, and you can pretty much see it in action. So we've got all the corner lots worked in, then we drop the lot width to 2 and we'll find the corresponding front lot, and it looks to be this medium 06. Yeah, it's pretty much the same design. So obviously that makes this process super easy. Now I might see if I can grab a 2x4 version if I can find the sort of the same design, but as you can see, it kind of changes. It changes up a little bit, which is nice. It adds a bit of greenery out back as well. So we might utilize just a couple of those to just kind of mix it up a little bit, unless there are any pathing issues, obviously. So I think this outer side, we're gonna go for the version with the grass and trees in the back. And obviously it has a slightly different like roof structure as well. So I think it's just so fun to kind of work with these things and just kind of create these blocks, and it's super simple as well. Cool. So with all of these in place, I'm just gonna move it, of course, and recolor to just make sure it's all located right snug up to each other, and then making sure it all has the same color scheme. I wouldn't mind this development kind of standing out a little bit. So instead of going for the red roof tiles that kind of dominate much of the city, but Neuville especially, I think I'm going to go for a color scheme where it's actually a much darker and almost black tile, and then just red brick facades. So this setup here should be fairly interesting. I think that looks really nice. This block here is obviously a little more tricky, and it's gonna require a bit more in terms of move it manipulation to really work out, but otherwise it's much the same principle. So I just want to make sure I don't grab the same type of structure for what I've already built, so I might grab something like this instead. I think I might go for the level 5, because I mean the density of this block is really high as well, so I think the transition is gonna look maybe just a little better. So I'm just gonna get all the corner lots I need placed. And I think that's it, because we'll have to just creatively weave in the straight segments in hopes of making sense of all this. But yeah, move it is gonna save the day, I imagine. Obviously, there are some compromises to make here in terms of buildings kind of being a little weirdly stitched together to just make sense of all this. But I think it works, at least from a distance. Obviously, if you move too close in, you'll see some oddities. But then again, I haven't, made the color scheme all the same with with recolor yet. So let's see. I think for this one, we're keeping the red roof tiling and then just making the facades, I think, a little brighter, maybe not super white, so like an off-white like this, and then just painting it all in. Unsurprisingly, the population of Neuville is really starting to soar right now, so I can only imagine we'll need another school of sorts. Yeah, we desperately need another elementary school, and I'm hopeful that the Dutch-themed school is going to fit in quite well on the block here with the hospital, because they kind of feature the same red brick design. Yeah, I mean, that is gonna work, right? You can even, I think we can even kind of stitch these together. This would allow for a few additional upgrades to the school here. How is this gonna work? Is the pathing gonna be an issue? No? That's wild. So can I have another segment back here? I might need like an additional road for this to make sense, but that's actually all right. Yeah, I will. But that's fine. We're already using a small lane here. To kind of complicate this or make it just a little more interesting, I should say. I'm not trying to complicate anything. So why not just add a few more of these in? And I'll just make sure we don't have too many crossings or too many unnecessary intersections. So this is already one, so that's not an issue. And I think here I want to get rid of, just want to get rid of the traffic signaling. But otherwise, I think this works. It looks like one structure, actually. I guess it might be slightly traumatizing with all the ambulances right next to a school, so we can imagine something else. Either it really is just a small-scale medical clinic, which doesn't handle any crazy emergency calls or patients, or maybe it's just a big hospital. I think the design is so nice and the functionality is so nice that either way we're gonna keep it, that's for sure. I just need a thick cover of some nice oak trees. Oh, and of course Pedelmo's leafy tree. Alright, so I think I'm gonna change up my plans just a little bit, because I had initially planned for some public housing here alongside the highway, and I kinda imagined both of those projects being something from the 1970s. But with the current unemployment rate still figuring above 20%, I think we need some jobs instead. So most of this is going to be developed into contemporary office structures instead. There's just one issue I need to handle beforehand, and it's to do with our electricity network. Because currently we're looking all right in terms of what we generate and what we need, with everything we need basically being generated by the wind turbine farm here at the edge of the region. There's just one minor issue, and that's the fact that currently we just lead all this electricity into the city through 2 underground electricity cables. So there are no high capacity power lines here, and we're gonna need that because we're gonna see some wonky bottlenecks if we just continue plopping down buildings without upgrading this piece of infrastructure. So what we'll need is a transformer station located out here as part of this network. And we'll need something similar within city limits, so very close by. And I was thinking that maybe I can kind of squeeze in the small transformer station, which is such a nice addition to the game, like into the base, the fabric maybe of one of these skyscrapers. I don't think that would be out of place. And I feel it's kind of realistic as well. Let's see, it doesn't look... Yeah, it looks alright. I can even change this color to something white so that it, or off-white I guess, so that it blends into the building just like that. And now we just need to connect up with some underground power lines. Of course, we'll need a quick road connection out here as well, and make sure that there's some electrical cables underneath all of this stuff connecting the current set of wind turbines into the transformer station, but that should be like a fairly easy task. With that upgrade in place, we're ready to really dive into this area, and I think I've got an idea for this really slim, narrow lot. There is a particular office building that it's not pretty, but I think we've got room for it. I think it's part of the Japanese pack. It is the Shiranui Shimbun head office. I am very sorry for the pronunciation, but basically I'm gonna really just move this very, very close to this intersection, right about here. Then we're going to elevate it to the height of this node, I think, and maybe just lower it a little bit because there's quite the elevation change here, as you can probably tell. And then on this side, we'll need to add a retaining wall to this main arterial and just kind of flatten the whole thing. I'll grab one of the interesting underground parking garages I've grabbed off PDX mods, so that we can just kind of add that to the edge of the building here. And then just a quick connection by, is that gonna be a vanilla alley or maybe some surface parking, which is maybe a bit of an odd choice because parts of this lot is so well utilized, and then you've got the surface parking here, which is less well utilized. But it should look pretty fun, so I think we're going for it. I'll just grab this note here, drag that out a little bit, make sure this isn't too wonky, and that connection seems to work as well. How this building is home to 41 employees, I will never quite get. I guess if each employee is a CEO with a floor each, which could technically be possible in this day and age in terms of inequality and spiraling CEO wages. But let's just add some high density office blocks. Hopefully I can add a few without too many pathing issues here. Yeah, I could add a little handful. I'll just get rid of this one. So this should improve things ever so slightly, but it's not great. Fortunately, we have a ton of additional space to work with, so yeah, let's see. I'm going to use a mixture of actual functional offices and then mixing in some of the static pluggable versions of those functional assets in hopes of just trying to like create something interesting. So in this case, I'm going to see if I can find the prop version of this tower, which would be this one, and then I'll just try to do something that, yeah, looks interesting, looks unique, because that is what we need to do with the limited assets we have available. Obviously, it isn't all that limited anymore with the good stuff being pumped out on PDX mods, but still, either way, I think it's just a good skill to have, to be able to kind of mix and match different buildings or many versions of the same building to create something a little more unique. And that's what we're going to attempt here, at least. I mean, that certainly looks better than just having the single building in place. I think so, at least. I'm gonna maybe grab the drab color scheme of this one. Oh, that's nice. We need like a parking garage here at the back, and then of course some of these job blocks we can place down to increase the job count, because obviously we've only got this building being functional thus far, and no actual company here yet, but it's probably just gonna be 100 employees or something stupid. So yeah, we'll add this small underground parking building around the back here. Yoink. And of course get, I think, an alley once more in place. Or actually, let's go for something a little more substantial. And since this connection does look a little weird, maybe I can do something fun here with the wide alley I use for industrial spaces. Yeah, that seems to work out. Did I say 100 employees? Try 45. To be fair, it's a level 1 office, but that's just that's just so weird. We've got additional space in between this segment here. We could do something like a bit of a park landscape or something, or just more, I guess more office is probably the go-to. So let's just grab a smaller lot size and see what we can find. I am just going to be redoing this road segment here just a tiny bit, because I've got what I think might be an interesting idea for this corner lot here. It's always super nice when you can just utilize 2 or more functional buildings and kind of stitch them together, because then you don't really have to mess around with all the static versions and all that. So I'm gonna try to do something here that might look fun. Stitch these 2 together like this and just get a bit more place here, a bit more room rather. Better bulldozer to get rid of at least this one hedge. Then we'll use the bright color scheme, and we'll just zoom out and have a look. Yep, that works as well. I wonder how many employees. 72, okay. And this one is not occupied yet. nestled in between these towers, I'll just add a low-rise office building. And I guess my only criteria here is that it doesn't have a ton of service parking, so that it's not too low density. Obviously, it's very different from the towers, but I think it kind of helps mix up this area just a little bit. So I think we might actually do 2 hotels, and then we'll see if there's actually demand for both of them. So I'm gonna place this. The game tells me it's European themed. I'm not so sure, but I think I'm gonna build it on this corner lot right here. And then we've got this big fella, which I think I'm going to build on this corner here. So it's just to kind of make the skyline, make the leap across the street as well. So it's not all just nestled across the highway. And it's not too tall or too bulky, so I think it fits in really nice. And there's just some interesting architecture, and the skyline here in Zeeburg is really developing quite nicely. And I really enjoy this look, which is very much, once again, inspired by Frankfurt and Rotterdam, where we have like several high-rise clusters throughout the city, and not one massive downtown cluster, because the space just isn't there. Casually trying to stitch in a shopping mall at the base of this building here. So yeah, I think with better bulldozer it might just be feasible without removing all kinds of stuff. But yeah, there might be pathing issues as well, which I'll have to handle. But I'm just trying for now. I think it would be fun to have this added at the base of the building. It looks it looks super complex, but that's all right. Just try to. Yeah, I mean, the color scheme is a little off even with recolor, but otherwise, this is fun. Let's get rid of these trees as well as this fence. And I think that kind of works. A pretty massive project from this developer, I gotta say, but it looks nice. I am tempted to create an underpath underneath these train tracks here. It's very close to this segment as well. But it would just be nice to have this direct connectivity in place. We're gonna try it. So getting rid of some of this pedestrian stuff. Ugh, get out of the way. I'm trying to build roads. We'll make sure to lock to ground and constant slope. Let's move down by, let's see, 7.5 should be sufficient. And okay, I gotta think in terms of the placement of this, because I need to allow for some overpass segments, obviously, of the train tracks to actually look all right without pillars and otherwise all kinds of stuff just looking janky and moving into the roads. So I think this might just work. We'll see as soon as I try to upgrade to the overpass segment, of course. And fortunately, none of the elevation values are crazy. Okay, so let's see how much I need to upgrade here. 1 elevated, 2 elevated, or 3, 4, 5. I mean, that looks all right. And I'm sure this is gonna see some use. It kind of has to, because that's a very direct connection to Carlsbridge and Alexandria. Yeah, we're seeing almost immediate use, which is really nice. Let's continue the bike paths, the dedicated ones, because I don't think there's anything else we should really place alongside the sidewalks here. It is gonna end a little abruptly here, but it's better than nothing, I guess. I feel this area is really starting to deserve its very own district and therefore district name. So I guess my question to you guys is, what should we actually call this place? Something that I think if we can find something that kind of makes sense in the context of what it is, which is basically something that used to be something else but has now been completely redeveloped within the last 50 or 60 years, that would be really nice. In terms of statistics, 750 jobs. It's pretty bad, but it's better than nothing, and I don't really see another way out of out of this. I mean, in terms of the density, it's actually all right, because we could add a ton of industrial jobs as well, but that is just going to require a lot of additional space. So for now, I've named it Hochpark, which, if my German doesn't completely fail me, literally translates into tall park or high park or something of the sort. And I don't think it's too bad. I quite like it, but I'm very open to suggestions. And speaking of which, we are going to move out here to Seabend to rename this to, what was it? Louisen Canal, I think, or Louise Canal. Which is based on this wonderful suggestion, and I think it fits really well, and I love the narrative behind it as well. So as I let you guys conjure a nice suggestion for Hochpark, I am going to dive into a bit of a time lapse, adding a few more developments, maybe a bit of residential as well, and some nice detailing. A bunch of services and trees especially make all the difference. Even just moving through these empty lots and just adding some vanilla pavement paths as well as some trees really help out. It's a temporary thing, but it looks alright actually. So yeah, pretty light detailing, and in terms of functionality, Hochpark is now pushing 1,300 employees. And that's pretty good. I was doubtful we'd reach 1,000 due to the stats of some of the early buildings we placed, but we managed to bump that quite a bit. Now, there's just one more thing I'd like to do before we wrap up this episode, and that is going to be expanding the existing tram line just a little more, because we could very well do with an additional stop down here now. And I think the trams are able to reverse on this segment, which is pretty important because, yeah, that's really what we need. So let's just get a stop in place. We'll grab the stop at 145 Caraway Street and just move up to 106 Foggy Street. Not a fan of any of the street naming here, but we'll just make sure there's a stop here as well. I wonder if we can stop on the way back as well. Utilize the same stop. Yeah, that looks to be the case. It's not ideal, but unfortunately this particular road builder configuration doesn't actually allow me to place stops on the other side of the, like in the other direction, sorry. Because this median is just not big enough, so hopefully this will work just fine. We've got our first tram of the C10 free line making its way down here, just stopped for a few pedestrians and bicyclists. And let's see, so it should use this stop in both directions, which is going to be fun. So that seemed to work. Making its way out here. Dropped off about 20 passengers or something in that range. Let's see. And took on another 80, it seems. Alright, so it seems to work, which is perfect. We've still got plenty of space for new developments alongside the highway, but in total I am super happy with all the progress we've made today. So yeah, if you've got any suggestions for what you'd like to see next, or maybe something completely unrelated to Zeeburg here on the channel, let me know in the comments. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be wrapping up with some final cinematics, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Goodbye.